Hi class, today we are actually going to work on finding outliers in a data set. Okay, we have this question to find an outlier. Outliers are actually data points that differ significantly from the data. So we can look at our data right here, and it is in Professor Wright's class. The 11 students had the following scores in the last midterm. So these are scores. You can see that they go in the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s. Now we have one of them that's 185, which seems very different from the other ones. Outliers are said to be errors sometimes because they're outside of what we actually have our set of numbers from. So we usually don't count them as much. So we're going to see right here to see if 185 is an outlier or if even 74 is an outlier outside the set of data that we have. These are the 4 steps that we follow. We find the IQR, the fence, and then we take our fences and subtract and add them to our quartiles, and then we find our limits. If you want to write this down, these steps, we use every single time. Okay, first, to find our RQR, we need to find our median. Finding our median is finding the center of our data, so we go from each number until we get to the center to find which one is in the center. And 86 is our center. Okay, then we find our quartile 3. Quartile 3 is from 87 to 85, so I'm going to figure out which number is in the center, which is 94. And then I'm going to subtract that from quartile 1. My quartile 1 is from 80 to 74. So I'm going to go to find the center of this quartile, which would be 76. And 94 minus 76 equals 18. Okay, next I need to find my fence. My fence number is actually saying how far out of the data can I go? And how far out I can go is actually multiply by 1.5. I can go outside of the data 1.5 the amount. Anything over like 1.6 or 2.0, that is too far outside of my data and it's considered an outlier. So we have to only go by the fence number, which is multiplying by 1.5. So I will take my first IQR and say 18 times 1.5 equals 27. That is my fence number. Now I'm going to take my fence and plug it in to each one of my quartiles to figure out my limits. Quartile 1 is the number 76. So I'm going to do 76 minus my fence number, which is 27, equals 49. Now I'm going to take my next quartile, which is 94, that's quartile 3, and 94 minus my fence number, 27, equals 121. Okay? Okay, so now I have my limits. My limits are actually 49 through 121. Now my set of data can actually only go from number 49 to 121. Now 74 is inside of my data set because 49 is lower than it. But if I look over here, 121 hits right there. And if you can see, I have one that's sitting outside the data, which is 185, making it my outlier. So my outlier here is 185. There can be more than one outlier. But in this set of data, it's actually only one of them, 185, and there can actually be none, which you would type in N-O-N-E for none. If you have any questions, please email me and make sure you go through this list. Number 1, find the IQR. Number 2, find the fence by multiplying by 1.5. Number 3, find the limits by going Q1 minus the fence, and then Q3 adding to the fence, because remember, I forgot to actually tell you, I'm adding to the Q2 or Q3 because I'm going to see how high it can go, and I'm subtracting from Q1 because I'm going to see how low I can go. So we subtract to go down and we add to go up. And then finally, I find my limits by the numbers that show up in subtracting and adding to how far I can go from my quartiles. If you have any questions, please email me. I can help you out with any of this.